All right, guys, this is some exciting stuff here as our next guest is dropping his book, Funky, My Defined Path Through the Wild World of Combat Sports. You know him from his incredible run in college Olympic wrestling, his one and Bellator welterweight championship reigns, and the impact he's made on the UFC and MMA in general, not to mention the boxing world. Man, what a pleasure. It's been a little while as well. Ben Funky Askren, welcome back to Submission Radio, man.
How are you guys?
Yeah, good, man. Good. Thanks for jumping on. Ben Askren, author.
Australia.
Beg your pardon?
So what's new in Australia?
There's a new book. Have you heard about this?
Very funny. Very funny.
It's an erotic novel about a young man's journey through.
How's it feel to finally have the book out, man? It's finally out. A labor of love, so to speak. How's it feel that it's finally out, man?
It's great. We started in September of 2020. I thought it was going to be much quicker. The process was much more drawn out, but I was really happy with how it turned out. I thought it turns out awesome. It's a fun read. I think you're going to learn a lot about the history of MMA. You learn a lot about my path and how I came to wrestling and mixed arts and all that stuff.
I'll be honest, man, I'm not the biggest reader. I know Dennis is a super big reader, but the reading that I did do was always wrestling autobiographies. Dennis got me into it. Remember Roddy Piper's and Ric Flair's, Tom Billington's The Dynamite Kid. I wonder, before you set out about writing your book, did you read much? What did you read? Were there any kind of cool autobiographies that you remember reading and, ever kind of channeling that and thinking, man, I'd like to write a book like this or, kind of have it similar like that?
Yep, I'm an avid reader, so I've read pretty much all of them. I actually been talking about since my book came out. One of the things that I think is I don't think there's enough wrestling for sure. There's not enough autobiographies or biographies.
Yeah,
MMA there really hasn't been that many. So it's I would probably read way more if they were out there, and they're just not out there.
Just quickly, sorry, I'm cutting in 1,000 times there. So what was your favorite autobiography, pro wrestling autobiography? What do you remember reading and being like, dude, that was
okay, not very. I'm talking about amateur wrestling or real wrestling, not pro wrestling.
Okay.
My favorite guy to read about, and I read a whole bunch of his books. My bookshelf is over here. That's why I'm looking this way as you ask me. Although I have lights, so it's hard to see. Ali's my favorite guy. I've read 8-10 books about him. He is a really fascinating individual. So obviously I've read a ton about him. As far as amateur wrestling is concerned, I don't want to say none of them were that great, but none of them were all that great, I don't think. There's a guy named Mitch Clark. I think I enjoyed his, but I read it when I was way younger, so maybe that's why. I feel like Henry's was kind of written a little bit to a younger audience. And it's almost I don't want to say it didn't respect the real wrestling fan, but talked maybe a little more dumb than what should have been expected. Does that make sense or no?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's they have to roll it out like everyone knows nothing about wrestling. As far as MMA, I've read Chuck's, I've read Tito's, Ronda, Uriah, Chael, all these people. George, I read his. I don't know. I don't have one that was this is really awesome compared to the others.
I liked Chuck's. I feel like that's one that's under the radar. So many good stories. Yeah. That guy lived a crazy life. And then some good stories in the Roddy Piper autobiography about Muhammad Ali. I don't know if you read that one, Ben, but
it's not really the Roddy Piper one. No, not at all.
Yeah. They had a fun relationship, him and Ali, back in the day when he was little. Anyway, let's get back to your book because you mentioned it, man. It's like a breakdown where you give a lot of really good advice. You kind of go into a bit of a blueprint for fighters who want to kind of maximize their careers and opportunities. And you kind of also reveal some of the thought that went into some of the decision making that you made, which was really fascinating. Just sort of explain to us, while you were in the process of writing this book, did you have this weird feeling of I don't know, should I be letting everybody in on this? Should I keep some of this to myself? What was the thought process as you were sort of almost uncovering some of the secrets? I feel like
that was me, and that was what people appreciate about me, is that I was an open book and I just said things like I felt them. And you never really questioned, is he running an angle on me? Is this really what he thinks or feels? when I said it, you just kind of trusted that was what I meant.
But the thought that sorry to jump in, Cass, but I guess the thing is when people read this, and like casual MMA fans as well, they don't understand what goes into being a professional fighter at the UFC level and building the fights like you have. But you go back to referencing big feuds and iconic moments in combat sports history, and how you sort of related some of these moments back to yourself as you were going through your career. So do you think they might be surprised about some of the thought processes and, I suppose, almost work that went into your decision making as you went on through the career?
Yeah, I mean, because I feel like I articulated a lot of the segments pretty well. Oh my gosh, I just realized I put the wrong background. I meant to put Askren Wrestling Ken. I changed my background.
You're more than welcome to change it. That's
Boom,
fine.
look at this. Boom. Oh, hold on. Boom. Change my background.
Nice.
Tremendous. Yeah, but I mean, I think any fighter would be foolish to not pay attention to the world that's going on around them and how things they do or say, how others things that they do and say are received by the fan base, by the ownership, right? Because by the sponsorships, because you were trying to look at, I mean, really this is all of life, right? You look at the world and you say, how can I best navigate this path with the values that I want to hold true to me? That's how everyone should look at the world. And everything, whether it's yourself or someone else, is probably a teachable moment. And that's kind of how I look at all those things that happen in mixed martial arts, in wrestling. You watch someone do something great and you wonder, how did they do that? And then what of what they did, what could I take for myself? How can I do it the same as them? How do I need to do it a little bit different than them?
And I guess it's also like, not only how do I do stuff in the octagon, or the wrestling arena, but it's sort of like, how do I, like, what is the move I make here to like maximize my opportunity? Like, what should I be doing? Like, because you go into a lot of different specifics. I wonder, when did you first realize, okay, this is a lot more than just going out on the wrestling mat. Okay, this is a lot more than just winning a fight.
Right away. Immediately. So right when we went to MMA, I knew it wasn't just a competitive venture. There's other things you have to do. And I don't know, I feel like that's obvious, but maybe.
Is it obvious though? I don't know.
Okay, well, when you watch the way some of the athletes operate, maybe you think this is not obvious. Because some of them act in ways that are not conducive to their popularity or them moving along faster. But like say you watch someone like Chael Sonnen, and right, this is an early one, because when he became popular, that's probably 2011, somewhere, right?
I think around 2010, before the first Anderson fight.
2010.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it was a while, right? It was a long time ago, where he kind of had that meteoric rise and became so popular, and it was not just because he was a good fighter; it was also because of all of the other things that came along with it. And I think that's the same thing whether it's McGregor or other people, that there's something about them that catches people's eye and makes them want to pay attention.
Yeah, and the thing is, in your book, you use these historic cues like Ali, Frazier, in explaining those moves, your moves, and thought processes. How much do you think stuff like that kind of thing is sort of missing from the roster today?
Definitely a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it was for me, it was. I read all these biographies, right, of athletes from all different backgrounds. Boxing, like I said, Ali was my favorite ones. Boxing, football, basketball, et cetera, et cetera. And you get, again, I see you watch what they do, you see how it affects them. Yeah, I basically from the roster is interesting because I think there's obviously some people that get it, but there are a whole bunch who maybe they don't fully grasp the need, and some people just don't want to do it, right? Say like a Demetrius Johnson, he didn't want to, be that guy. That was one of the reasons why he went to one championship in exchange for me.
It's interesting because so you had Chael. He kind of changed the game when it came to MMA.
Big time, right.
Then you got Conor. He changed the game, and you came along as well, and you had a massive impact. But then what you see is, you see guys kind of try to copy what Chael did. You see guys try to copy what Conor did, especially for a really long period of time. And of course, you see people try to sort of emulate as well what you did with the huge splash that you made in the division. So my question for you is, what do you think people are getting wrong? Because I feel like a lot of people are just seeing what you guys did, and they're trying to copy. It just kind of comes off as, kind of the Ben Askren from Wish rather than the next sort of Conor McGregor, if you know what I mean.
What they were saying about Sugar Sean. No, I think Sugar Sean's actually, he is a little bit of trying to copy Conor, but I think he's actually catching on a decent amount. Yeah, I think you got to be yourself. You got to be consistent. But sometimes I do struggle with like, why don't certain people catch on? Because like Demetrius, for example, I always really enjoyed him, and he never really caught on big from a fan base perspective, and it was always puzzling to me, like, why not? This guy should be a freaking superstar, and he just wasn't doing the pay-per-view numbers. So I think that one, there is a little bit of like, I don't guesswork. I would say guesswork to that. Why certain people do and do not catch on.
I think like authenticity has a lot to do with it. I think
yeah.
I think like Israel is a good example of a guy who just kind of did his own thing and is very different, understandable way. Go on.
Yeah, but okay, so I would agree. I think you're right. But then the one thing about Israel is like he caught on to a certain extent. Like for example, when his walkouts were tremendous, but then some of the things he said are just like, dude, what's up with this dude? And I feel like he is.
Which ones? You mean like the Twin Towers gaff or just other things?
I feel like man, I should have something ready to go. I feel like he said kind of a lot of like homoerotic things almost that or leave people in puzzle. Like when he humps Paulo Costa, for example, people are like, wait, why is he humping him? This is strange,
But that's kind of like I just destroyed you. That's like when people would teabag people in Halo,
Listen, I never humped another man. I don't know about you guys.
$20 is $20, Ben, all right?
Never done it.
Listen, this is a podcast. We need to make some money, keep the lights on.
You guys are in Australia. You can do whatever you want down there.
Down under,
in America.
Down under.
I don't hump other men. I don't know.
Just in America.
Now I'm blanking. But there's been a few others where he said that I just feel like, oh, you know what? Here, I'll give you a good one.
Yeah.
In the Romero fight, remember how boring that fight was?
Mm-hmm.
Him versus Romero.
Yeah.
And in the post-fight speech, I think he could have just been like, "Hey man, this dude's super dangerous. It was a little boring. Sorry, I had to do what I had to do to win. Blah blah blah." But instead, he was like, "I fucked his leg up," and it's like, wait, like, are you trying to spin what just happened? Because we all saw what just happened, and what you're trying to sell us. We all just watched it, and that didn't happen.
I get it. Yeah. I remember the backlash from that. You're not the only person who thought that. But I meant as in like I think with Israel, he's kind of like challenging the narrative of like what it is to be a man, so to speak. He's kind of like, you don't have to be like uber macho and still be seen as a man. You know what I mean? He's kind of like, look, I love comic books. I get my nails done, but I'm still a bad motherfucker kind of thing. And I think that's, I don't know. I can't think of too many people other than him before that really just went into it. You know what I mean? So that's why I think for me, that's a good example of a guy who just kind of did his own thing, turned the volume up a little bit, but stayed all authentic, as opposed to looking at him going, oh, he's copying this guy, he's copying that guy. If that makes sense. Sure.
That's fair. Because obviously everyone and someone in the public light is not going to not make mistakes once in a while.
Yeah. 100.
Yeah. And you know what you'd appreciate him, Ben, is, and we've noticed this because we're big pro wrestling fans, and I know he would have been, is that he likes to build an angle towards the end of his fights. He'll have a moment with the guy on the cage side, or now he's got this Alex Pereira fight where there's this feud, and he knows how to cash in on like Apollo Costa or Pereira and sort of build that to something. Whereas a lot of other champions, kind of get a little bit lost sometimes in that octagon. Don't know who to call out. They just want to thank everyone.
Sure.
Go home. So it's an interesting perspective that he's got. Hey, I just got to say, okay, so just back to your book, because we want to talk about other stuff.
Yeah,
we want to talk about this book.
Whatever you guys want.
You give out all these lessons. You live an incredible life. It must be weird, though, when you go back and you read this book and you're like, wait a minute, like, I've lived this life, but this is really like the experiences that I've gone through. These are really the things that I've done. These are things that I accomplished. I imagine it's more surreal when it's actually written down and out there in front of you.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. I think I had a moment when I was reading the book. I did the audio book that's coming out, and that was freaking, that was hard. Like reading a book, and you got to read. I generally speak really fast, and then you had to like really slow it down and not make any mistakes. Like it sucked. But there was a moment at the end of the book where I say something like, if I could go back and look at that 11-year-old kid who was so determined, I would be so proud of him, or tell him to keep going, or something to that effect. And that was just like, one of those moments where it's like, yeah, when you're 11 years old and you haven't done shit. Like I didn't do anything when I was 11. I wasn't good at anything. And then now, 20 whatever years later, I have this long list of accomplishments. It's probably much further than I could have ever dreamed. And it was, obviously I had a lot of good people surrounding me, but a lot of it was because of my determination and hard work. Then it feels really, really good.
Oh, I imagine, dude. And especially like all the stuff you overcame and like, with that determination. In the book, you opened up about dealing with your hip limitations and how it was a lot more than just about the money for you. After reading this book, I kind of feel like a lot of people might get a different perspective about your career and how you were willing to take chances, some chances that most people won't. I wonder, like, for those that are sort of tuning in, watching, how important is it for them to give themselves the permission to take chances on their own lives? Even with the risk of failure.
I mean, isn't it? I feel like that's everything. I feel like there's so many people who live this life where they're so fearful of making mistakes or having failures that they don't do anything. Right? They literally take no chances, and they grow up and they get that 9 to 5, and they go to that 9 to 5 for 40 years because they're so scared to branch out and try something on their own, and because they may fail. Or you're right, you don't go ask out that pretty girl because you're afraid that you may fail or she may say no. I mean, yes, I think it's vital. I think it's something that very, very many people deal with on a regular basis.
Where do you think that attitude comes from for you? Because I remember, like, when you're like 18, 19, you feel like you have an infinite amount of time. And now I just turned 33 and I'm realizing that, like, hey man, time goes really fucking quick. I feel like I was 18 yesterday. And you start looking at your life and you start thinking, damn man, maybe I have been playing it safe in a lot of certain ways. You look back on certain things that didn't happen, could have happened, and you think one day you could be in a hospital bed and the priest comes and I remember reading a quote from a priest.
It's going hard.
And he was saying something about, like, because this dude, right, he's the last person that a lot of people see, and he says, I've seen people who are happy and they're like, man, I lived a sick life, and he sees people that are like, they have that look in their face like, fuck, I wasted my whole life and now it's coming to an end. So I'm just, there's different people. Some people love to take risks and some people, don't. So I wonder, where did that attitude come from for you?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess my dad started his own business and still owns it to this day. So maybe it was something from him, but I don't really remember him like saying, go take chances or take risks or, anything really specific like that. I remember, he probably encouraged me to take on challenges and not be, not be overcome by the fear of what may happen or may not happen. Just go do it, And I guess that was one of the things in wrestling is like I said, when I was 11 and all the years prior to that, I wasn't any good at all. And it was like, hey, if I just keep showing up and going to compete, I'm going to get better and better and better. And that was just kind of, so that was kind of something that I held pretty true to myself. And obviously, I followed through with it because I got pretty damn close to the top of wrestling.
Yeah, a lot of it is, I feel, momentum, being able to get some momentum behind you, get some confidence, just give yourself a chance to succeed in something.
But you got to start somewhere, right? So
I know, but every athlete you look at,
you got to pull that trigger for the first time sometime.
Exactly. And when you look at some of these pivotal athletes like your Ali's, your Michael Jordan's making the game-winning shot early on in his, high school days. What would have happened if he missed? Those kinds of things. People talk about the momentum of people being able to achieve stuff and take risks. Okay, you talked about pay-per-view buys, and I got to ask you about this Jake Paul Anderson Silva pay-per-view buy that came out the other day. Oh, well, Jake Paul was talking about 200 to 300,000 pay-per-view buys for this fight that just went down this past weekend. He was talking about how he was disappointed at the number. I just got to get your thoughts, man. Like, what did you think about the fact that the fight sold maybe less buys than what Jake was hoping for this fight?
And if he said that number, it's probably less, I would guess.
I think most people guess that as well. Yeah,
very good guess. I guess I would have guessed it wasn't going to be very good. The way I informally judge things like that is, my Twitter timeline because I only follow a handful of people. And
Submission Radio, you follow Submission Radio?
Sorry, I don't follow you guys yet.
What do you mean?
You DM us.
Are you sure?
Yes.
You love our tweets. What do you mean? How dare you say?
I gotta look. You guys are lying. I knew it. But so if there's a really big fight like say UFC 280, my timeline was freaking blowing up. Like you could just see a lot of interest in that event. And with the Jake Paul fight, it was. I actually went to sleep before it happened. When I woke up in the morning, there was like not a lot of tweeting about it at all. Whereas other events that I've like that where maybe I fall asleep early, it'll be crazy, like hard to scroll through all the stuff. And that wasn't the case on Saturday night. So I was gonna guess it didn't do that well.
Oh wow, falling asleep before it even happened. Ringing endorsement. Did you even end up watching it?
No.
Wow, still
I fell asleep. I told you that.
No. But I mean, like later, did you wake up and go, oh, I'll check this out or anything? Still haven't watched it.
Busy man. They fought like 8 rounds or something. I don't have time for that.
It's a lot of rounds. I feel you. I am curious. Do you think this Nate and Jake fight happens? Nate Diaz and Jake Paul.
There's a chance. I mean, I don't know why anyone would think that Nate has much of a chance given what just happened, Nate's a lot smaller. I don't think anyone would consider Nate on the level of striker that Anderson is. But yeah, I guess it might happen.
I wonder, this fight didn't do that well. We know that Jake was struggling apparently to sell seats at Madison Square Garden for his last fight. Nate's a big name here. How big do you think a Jake versus Nate boxing match could be in your opinion?
I don't think it's that big. I think people. So I said this the other day. I think people were interested in how can this guy Jake actually fight? And now that he's established that he's at least all right, people aren't that interested because okay, he can fight. He's a pretty good boxer, but I'm out. And people get really into people's stories or following their past. Say when they're going for a title, oh, this is this up and comer, and he's on his way to fight for a title, and they start following that journey that athlete is making, But right now, Jake's journey seems to be meandering a little bit. Where is he going? What is the end goal? Nobody really knows, and without a clear path to follow, that's where I think a lot of fans get lost. What's he trying to do? You know what I'm saying? What? I mean, literally.
Yeah, makes sense.
Answer. What answer? What's your answer?
He's calling out Canelo, but we know that.
I think at the moment, Connor's the end
goal. You can't call it. That's right. You can't call it Canelo. It's preposterous, right? You'd have to take another 4 or 5 jumps. I'm sure boxing has rankings. You maybe start with number 25, and then 24, and then 12, right? And you build yourself up a little bit.
It's also interesting to me because obviously you guys had your feud, but I feel like that boxing match that you had and the build up to that boxing match, in my eyes, that was kind of the most buzz Jake Paul had in any of these boxing matches. I know the Tyron Woodley fight was pretty big. The rematch, not so much. But when you look back at it, do you think that people are kind of missing the fact that, and this is a similar thing that you did with Jorge Masvidal as well, you being in the equation really made a big difference in that first boxing match that Jake had with you, or the only boxing match that you guys had. Yeah.
I mean, I would agree that I think there was a lot of buzz, and at that point, I mean, people were curious, can he actually fight? And now they kind of know, he's actually kind of good. And so now they need people need a path. People need why am I following you? Where is this going to lead? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what they need. People don't have
tattoo bets on doing it.
What are we doing here? What are we doing here? I don't know what we're doing here. And I think that's where people are at right now.
It's a good point. I never really looked at it that way of how important the goal is. But yeah, you make 100%.
The goal is so important. So important. That's why some of these fighters, they get popular. So they make this rise, and maybe they even win a title, and then they lose, and maybe they make another run at it. Maybe they get there, maybe they don't. But then after a while, when they just keep hanging around, you're they lose a lot of interest because it's well, what are they still doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, well, for them, like if they want to fight because they enjoy fighting, whatever, great, good, go fight. But for the casual fan, there needs to be some narrative. There needs to be some story, some storyline of why I want to fight this guy or why I'm still fighting, something to that effect.
What do you think of this feud that he's got with Dana White from the perspective of, do you sort of see it as Jake being like, okay, like this is a good way to publicize some of my fights? Like him and Dana are always in the headlines. People are asking Dana stuff at the UFC press conferences from time to time. So then he's kind of there as well. He's kind of in people's minds rent free when it comes to that kind of feud. Do you see him sort of doing that feud for publicity? Do you believe that he's actually trying to challenge Dana to paying fighters more money? What's your perception of it?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really want to guess all that much. Probably something about attention would be probably the best guess.
Reminds me a bit of like WCW versus WWF back in the day. Eric Bischoff calling out Vince on the show. Remember that?
I've watched a little pro wrestling, but not a lot. So like, the name Eric Bischoff sounds familiar, but like I don't remember any of his feuds or anything.
How dare you?
Know,
okay,
sorry.
we're just going to pretend that never happened, and we're just going to move on.
Yeah, we're just going to edit that out.
Never happened.
Stone Cold Steve Austin. Didn't Stone Cold Steve Austin want to fight Vince McMahon?
Yeah. It was a game changing angle. Yeah, 100%. That was massive. Okay, cool. All right, you want us back, Ben?
Jake 316.
Oh, you guys are funny.
So quick. All right, we have to ask though, right? There's these rumors in the UFC welterweight division that maybe Colby Covington might fight Khamzat Chimaev. From a fan's perspective, that's exciting because that's a intriguing fight. Do you think that fight happens? A lot of people think, I don't know if it'll actually materialize. Do you think it happens? And then also, how would you see that one even playing out?
So I think that would be a good fight to make. That being said, Colby has not been very active anywhere, not social media, not fighting, not nothing. So I'm not sure, but it would be a great fight to make because obviously, like you have Chimaev progressing toward a title. Colby would be the guy since you're making Leon and Marty again. Colby would be the guy because he's beaten kind of all the other guys. So yeah, I think that fight would make a lot of sense.
People, depending on who you speak to, either Khamzat is a nightmare matchup for Colby because of the striking, or people might think, oh, actually, I don't know about that. I think Colby might get him in the later rounds. How do you see that fight?
Yeah, no, I think I think those are both valid perspectives. Right, and that's the way you look at it. I don't really know which way it would lean. I think Colby's, obviously he's been a tough fight for everybody. It's not like there's anyone who's went and got him out of there easy. Chimaev has got some really awesome things. I'd probably lean Colby a little bit, but not very far either way.
So you said, I know you mentioned Usman rematching Leon, but do you think the UFC should try and pull the trigger on this Masvidal-Edwards feud to try and make a little bit of money off it? No?
Why not? If you were the matchmaker,
you don't give someone a title shot off 3 losses. Give me a break.
Yeah, I know, but more from the, no, not at all. And
set it up.
I'm going to come to Australia and fight you. Keep this up.
Wait, are we going to get you back into fighting? This has never happened before. So the hips feeling good?
Oh, it's great. It's tremendous. Yeah.
Long flight. It's like 12 hours. I don't know how that hit.
No, it's not. It's way more than 12 hours.
Yeah, that's where you're coming from.
Like 20.
Premium. I hope you get that premium economy. Me and Casper having to flirt with whoever's behind that desk just to make it to America in one piece or cover the UFC. Okay. I've got to get your thoughts as well, man. I know, like, with Bo Nickal coming into the UFC, a lot of people are sort of looking at his potential as well. I want to know, man, like, as an accomplished wrestler yourself, a lot of people are sort of saying Bo kind of has the formula to be the next middleweight champion, and they're already kind of talking about him versus Adesanya. It's so early in his run. I wonder, like, from what you're seeing from him right now, do you think this guy could be a problem for the undisputed champ down the line?
Bo is the elite of the elite wrestling. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think he can be really good. I think it's too early to say he's going to be the champ yet, but I think that's definitely something that's possibly in his future.
Yeah. Super exciting because obviously, as we're talking about, like with Bo Nickal, he's got the goal. The goal is clear. You know where he's heading, and he has the talent. So now it's a matter of, watching him progress on that journey and kind of, see him potentially getting there. All right. Speaking of goals, I mean, let's be honest. As a man, everybody's goal is to be the absolute best version, the best man they can possibly be, and no better way to do that than trimming the boys downstairs. It all starts with that. It all starts with personal grooming and hygiene. And what better way to do that than with the pound for pound greatest grooming tool, the lawnmower from Manscaped. And if you're here in Australia, Manscaped, our good friends, are taking over every single Woolworths retail store here in Australia. You can now buy the Lawnmower 3.0 here in Woolworths. Why not? With the ceramic blade, the skin-safe technology, the waterproof features, the LED light, what's not to love? And if you're buying it as a gift, you can from Woolworths, or if you're buying it online, I mean, Christmas is around the corner. You're racking your head what to get people, your loved ones, your friends. The Platinum Package is the best deal yet with the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, the Ultra Premium Body Wash, the Ultra Premium 2-in-1 Shampoo and Conditioner, the Ultra Premium Deodorant, the Crop Preserver Anti-Chafing Ball Deodorant, Crop Reviver Ball Spray Toner, and the free Boxes and Shed Travel Bag. Dude, if that isn't enough to make you stuff some stockings this Christmas season, I don't know what is. Isn't that right, Dennis?
That's right, man. And you guys get to save 20% off and get free shipping if you use the code word submission. Better yet, you're also helping the program and the boys pay the bills and keep the lights on. Go to Manscaped today. Get your stuff sorted for Christmas and have the best gifts under that Christmas tree. And guys, with a big card right around the corner, there's only one place to go to make all of your bets, and that is with our friends at MyBookie. You can use the code word submission for a 100% match deposit all the way up to dollar for dollar, all the way up to $1,000. Use the code word right now on the big fights coming up. UFC 281, just quickly having a look at the odds right now. Alex Pereira plus 136. Israel Adesanya minus 175. Which way will you be leaning? What about Michael Chandler plus 144? Dustin Poirier minus 185. The money is right there on the table for you people. Use that code word submission at MyBookie today and get that cash ahead of the holiday season, Cass.
That's right. While you're winning money, you also want to save money this holiday season. You're buying a million gifts for your friends, your family, your loved ones. What if you could get those exact same gifts cheaper? In comes NordVPN. With one touch of a button, you can make your computer think you're in a different location. And guess what? Different countries pay different things. They pay cheaper rates, cheaper prices for the exact same thing. The same flights are different if your computer thinks you're maybe in Australia or in a country with maybe a weaker currency or an economy. If you're in a country like, say, the US, you're probably paying top dollar. Dennis likes the NBA. He likes to watch basketball, likes to watch the NBA League Pass, but he doesn't want to pay top dollar. Change his computer with NordVPN to think that he's like in, I don't know, Indonesia or Philippines. All of a sudden, he's paying way less for the NBA League Pass. It works the same for Netflix. If your computer thinks you're in Mexico, you're paying a cheaper rate for Netflix. It works for pay-per-views. It works for all sorts of different things. The same products are different in different countries. And also, you get the added benefit, well, really what VPNs are for is the protection from all your data, blocking any kind of intruders, surfing the web anonymously because incognito mode doesn't really do anything. Your internet service provider is still checking out all your search history and those spicy hentai websites. So you block everybody, block trackers, protect your information, your credit card details, and everything with NordVPN, #1 pound for pound.
Yeah, man. And also don't forget, as you gear up for your traveling, you get to keep all of your accounts no matter where you go in the world. The blocking is crazy. And who has the time to re-sign up to different sort of streaming websites and memberships whenever you go to a different place? You can try NordVPN right now, completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. And how about this deal? You get a huge discount plus 4 months free if you go to nordvpn.com/submission. Just click that link in the description below if you're watching through YouTube. And trust us, change your life for the better thanks to NordVPN.
All right, just quickly, Ben, before we get out of here, UFC 281 around the corner, stacked card. And I am curious about that main event, man. We're just talking about Bo Nickal and Israel. The rematch, well, not technically a rematch because the first fights were in kickboxing, now it's in MMA. But, you know, the third fight between Israel Adesanya and now Alex Pereira. I am curious what you think as far as like the promotion for this event. Not just from the company, but also Israel, sort of, you know, the way he's been promoting everything. And then also, of course, how you see this the fight playing out.
Well, I think this is a great card, kind of up and down. There's a lot of really good fights on it. They always do a good job with the MSG card, though. Yeah. So, man, he's beaten twice in kickboxing. It's going to be a kickboxing fight, right? They're not going to take each other down. So I think it's got to go Pereira.
Really? Even though, oh, wow, okay. Do you reckon the smaller gloves make a difference?
I mean, it's relatively the same skill set. Obviously, you're more likely to get knocked out with smaller gloves than bigger gloves, but they still don't have pads on their elbows or their knees or their feet, their feet, shins, right?
It's interesting because Israel was doing really well in those kickboxing matches against Alex. And do you think that the fact that this is an MMA fight and the fact that Israel's grappling has, increased to a significant level?
You really think he's going to take him down, though?
I don't know. What do you think? I mean, he's got a great camp in his corner. They're pretty smart.
Okay? Never know. You guys could test your knowledge. Have you guys played on the Verdict app yet?
Verdict app?
No, not yet. We know the Verdict guys.
It's a company I invested in. They have this great app. Hold on, I'll flip it open for you quick. They have this great app. Well, initially it was a scoring app. This is the Verdict app right here. Initially it was a scoring app, but they built this daily fantasy game. And I've won twice over in pools of over 200 people. So I know how to predict my fights, of course.
Okay.
You guys should check it out. It's a really cool app, and you can score all the rounds. They have like the hive mind scoring where everyone scores a round, and you can see what the score was. So I always find that fascinating to compare that against the judges. What the majority of people think. And then, like I said, the daily fantasy sports game is really fun too.
Have you done any picks for 281 yet? Have you locked them in?
I have not done. They only do like the week of. Right now they're on the Rodriguez versus Lemos, and then obviously once that's over, they'll do the next one.
Well, I'll tell you, check out the app. But of course, right now in Australia, you guys can grab Ben's awesome book right now. Jump online, make sure to order it. I'll tell you what, great summer read for us here in Australia. It's going to be summer coming up here, Ben. So there's going to be a lot of beach reading done. And there's only one accessory for the beach, and that's that Ben Askren book that's out today. Of course, follow the man at Ben Askren for all of his latest upcoming projects. Ben, thank you so much for it. I kind of feel like we've almost lured you to Australia with you wanting to beat us up. But I also feel happy.
I had someone ask me to come for a seminar tour, but then I haven't heard from them in a while, so I don't know if it's actually gonna come true. We'll see.
Fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed that we see you. And
one of my really good buddies, one of my best friends, lived in Australia for a long time, and you guys' corona response was totally insane, and he had to escape, and so he came back to America. So I always wanted to go see him, and I never got to, and now he's back in America. So I'd find another reason to come to Australia.
All right, somebody book Ben for a seminar. We need Ben Askren here in the meantime.
I did a bunch of seminars. I want to bring my family too.
Yeah, come down, see the koalas, see the boys.
Yeah. I'll wrestle the shit out of a koala.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time, Ben. Lots of love, man. Appreciate it.